Today, we're diving into a very crucial topic, one that goes beyond the headlines. We're talking about the phenomenon of Benjamin Netanyahu, his motivations, and the larger forces at play behind the escalating conflict in the Middle East. Could there be a bigger, more calculated plan? Some say Netanyahu isn't just seeking to dismantle Iran, but is setting the stage for something much more dangerous, full-scale war, possibly in global conflict. So let's unpack what's really going on. Netanyahu isn't just another political leader caught up in the ongoing conflict. He is a key player in what we could be a much larger, more strategic agenda. While most eyes are on the US elections, Netanyahu has been making moves that seems to fly under the radar. It's important to note that Netanyahu's actions are not necessarily aligned with the United States' long-term strategy. America's focus isn't on escalating tensions to the level of that Netanyahu is pushing for, especially not with the potential global economic crisis looming. But Netanyahu has his own backers, a strong Zionist lobby, political allies, and perhaps most intriguingly, a group of influential religious figures. He's not alone in this. He follows guidance from Zionist thinkers and rabbis who believe in a larger messianic plan. For them, what's happening right now in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran isn't just another chapter in the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's part of a long-term vision. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture, the future. If a solution isn't found that can address the root causes of this conflict, we will continue to see this cycle of violence for generations to come. Think about it. This conflict isn't going away. Even if Israel managed to win in Gaza or Lebanon, it's not the end. The children growing up in Gaza and Lebanon who witness the horrors of war today will likely be the ones taking up arms 10 to 50 years from now. This has been the case for the last 78 years since Israel's founding. If we don't address the root cause, if we don't find a solution that satisfies both sides, this cycle of violence will continue. This isn't just a short-term conflict, it's a generational issue. Netanyahu's hardline approach may seem like a solution to some, but it's more of a band-aid over a wound that continues to fester. It's important to recognize that without true peace talks and diplomacy, the next generation will inherit the same conflict. And what we are seeing now will play out again and again. Next, let's dive into the economic implication, especially if Israel targets Iran's oil refineries or if Iran retaliates by blocking critical oil routes. If Israel decides to attack Iran's oil refineries, what are the potential consequences? So, let's look that the global oil market produces around 100 million barrels a day. Out of that, the US produces 13 to 14 million. Saudi Arabia about 9 million, Russia 10 million, and Iran only about 3.5 million. While Iran plays a role in global oil production, it's not as significant as some might think. So what happens if Israel takes out 3 million barrels of Iran's production? Well, that's easily replaceable. Saudi Arabia has already cut production by around 2 to 3 million barrels per day, but they could wrap it up back to cover the shortfall. On the other hand, we also have the possibility of Iran retaliating by closing the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for global oil shipments. That's a more serious threat, but again, it's not something that will completely destabilize the global market, at least not in the long run. We might see a short-term spike in oil prices, sure, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't believe it will lead to an economic collapse. The markets will adjust. But it isn't just about economics or military victories. There's something much deeper going on. Let's talk about Netanyahu's real motivations. What's driving him and the Zionist ideology behind it all? This is where it gets really interesting. Many people think Netanyahu's goal is simply to neutralize Iran's nuclear threat. But could there be something much bigger at play? Netanyahu, or Bibi, as he is commonly known, is driven by something much larger than just geopolitics. His plan may not be entirely his own. He is following a Zionist vision, one that aligns with religious prophecy of chaos leading to the arrival of the Messiah. In this worldview, the conflict with Iran isn't just about regional power. It's about triggering a series of events that could lead to a global coalition between the West and the East. By escalating tensions and pushing for larger confrontations, Netanyahu may be playing a role in setting the stage for an accidental event, a trigger that could lead to a global conflict, or even what some might call a world war. This isn't just about destroying Iran, it's about creating the ultimate chaos, a scenario where the old world order collapses and a new one arises from the ashes. It sounds far-fetched, I know, but when you look at the moves being made, the idea of an intentional escalation to fulfill a messianic prophecy doesn't seem to be unrealistic anymore. Let's pause for a moment. What does this mean for us and for the future of the Middle East? Is there a way out, or are we on an inventable path toward a larger conflict? If this situation continues to escalate, we could be looking at a much wider war. Hezbollah is ready to retaliate, Iran will strike back, and soon enough, other countries could be dragged into this. Syria, Iraq, and even countries outside the region may become involved. The real danger here is that what starts as a regional conflict could quickly spiral out of control. We've seen how quickly alliances can shift, and once global powers like the US or Russia get involved, the stakes become much higher. There's a very real risk that this could lead to a broader global conflict, especially if an accidental trigger, as we mentioned earlier, sets off a chain reaction. So what's the solution? Is there a way to avoid this catastrophic outcome? Well, it's hard to say. The hope, as always, lies in diplomacy and finding a solution that satisfies all parties involved. But that's easier said than done. Netanyahu isn't just playing a short-term game. There's something much bigger at stake here, something that could shape the future of the Middle East and the world. While Israel may win in Gaza, Lebanon, or even in strikes on Iran, the real danger is in the long-term implications. Without a real solution, without addressing the core issues, we're destined to see this cycle of violence continue. And if Netanyahu is following a greater Zionist vision, we might be heading toward an even larger conflict. So that's all. Stay tuned as we continue to explore this unfolding crisis. If you find today's episode insightful, make sure to subscribe and share your thoughts. Until next time, stay engaged and stay informed.